Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to the episode of my F1 2019 career mode, episode number 87 today for the Bahrain Grand Prix in Season 5. You guys did miss the previous one, the opening round of this brand new season, then be sure to go check that one out. But a massive thank you to you guys for the awesome response there. You guys loving the choice of going to Ferrari after being fired from Mercedes, and this is going to be a bit of a struggle of returning this great team, of course, in Formula 1 to kind of, where it should be, really, with a slow start there. Obviously, on the back of last episode, we discussed having to only purchase a minor engine power upgrade. That does come in, thankfully, so for now the Ferrari mechanics and engineers aren't pissing me off with failed developments here, but there's plenty of time for that this season. But the first one we purchased has come through, so it's a small upgrade, but should hopefully help a little bit here at the power circuit that is Bahrain. And of course, like I said, that means we have a decent amount of points left over in the top right there, so by the end of this episode, hopefully I can purchase that ultimate engine upgrade that we've got left on the R&D tree, and that will go a long way, because you can see on the R&D chart, now that everyone's had time to move forward, we can see a better picture of what the R&D graph looks like, and already we're making a little bit of a gain on Haas there. But you saw, in actual terms, the car was a little bit quicker than it seems here on this graph, as it always is. The graph doesn't tell the full story, but the fuel spread is so small that, within one or two ultimate upgrades, a few majors chucked in, we could be right in the mix there, basically. So don't fret, just need to try and limit the damage, basically, and do the best job we can, basically, in this kind of first third of the season. I'm hoping it's a third of the season that it takes us to get right into the middle of the midfield there on the R&D graph, but I just don't know, really. But Bahrain hopefully can be a good one. Obviously hasn't been so great for Ferrari if we look at the real-life 2019 season last year, but we'll see how it goes for us here. Like I said, hopefully the engine power upgrade helps us out a little bit on those straights. Let's go to qualifying then and see how we do over one lap.
Bahrain qualifying is nearly upon us, and the drivers look as if they're all geared up to go. I expect we'll be getting underway very shortly. Now then, Anthony Davidson, you're not getting any younger, but you have been involved in your fair share of qualifying sessions in an illustrious 30-year career. How do you deal with the pressure when you have that one chance to deliver a perfect lap?
It's not so much about dealing with the pressure, it's more about how you approach the risk and just how much of it are you willing to take. You're constantly balancing the car on the edge of grip from braking, cornering and traction, and over the course of a lap, it's easy to get that balance wrong, and that's why achieving the perfect lap is almost impossible. As you say, I've been doing this 30 years now, and it never gets any easier.
Right, so rolling into the final corner then to start our first flying lap in Q1. In terms of the setup here at Bahrain, I have definitely compromised myself a little bit there. We've gone for a little bit lower wings that I might have done, because I did think about, obviously, the fact that Australia, the turn-in wasn't that great, the bite-in wasn't that great, but at the same time, we were losing time on the straights. I think here at Bahrain, in the race, we're going to want that speed, extra speed. So I've gone for a little bit lower wings. That might hurt us a little bit here in qualifying, but could pay dividends when it comes to Sunday. But the pressure's on here now to get through into Q2, as it always is if you're at Ferrari, but maybe that pressure a little bit too much there boils over as we run wide on the curb, lose the back end there, and the car feeling very unstable indeed on that curb. I don't know if that's just a specific Ferrari thing, or I've just never ridden the curb at a certain angle like that ever in the career mode so far, but that thing chucked me out so quickly there. Tried to react to it, just couldn't hold the car, and spat me left into the wall. So front wing off, and that's really a horrendous way to start off the race weekend there. Trying to build the confidence in the car, trying to feel out, where the limit is basically through these corners, and then getting basically the track biting back like that is never a great thing there for the confidence. So last time at Australia, obviously we lost time due to the team having a fault with the car. This time that was definitely all my fault, so now we've got even more pressure on us to try and get through with the lap time there. Again, flirting with the curb this time, doesn't bite us off there, so fine margins, I think, in terms of the angle and where you are on that curb if it spits you off there, so you have to watch out for that, because I've never really had that ever before within the other cars in my career mode. So I don't know if that's maybe the Ferrari, just the model of the car acting a little bit differently to the curb, potentially. I'm not too sure, but that first run was not good enough, wasn't that great. But of course, at Bahrain especially, it's always a case of trying to wind up. I find more time as we go through, especially in the second sector and the last there, trying to not lose too much time in the corners. Of course, like I said, I've lowered the wings, so that's been a bit of an adjustment in terms of the turn-ins not being as good as I would hope to, but we're gaining time back basically every time we're on the straights and losing less time than we would do usually. We're through up into P13 with that second flyer then at the end of the session, but very much like was the case last episode. Unfortunately, people come through, and this time my teammate comes through as well, and I am knocked out in Q1, but George Russell actually makes it through into Q2. So he had a little bit more speed in the car, and he makes it through, and unfortunately, the second time of asking, the second episode of this season, I'm out in Q1. So clearly, obviously, qualifying's never been my strongest suit anyway, as it was, but to be fair, I did end last season quite strong in terms of my qualifying record in the Silver Arrow, but so far, not so great, but I don't think George Russell's going to really climb that much higher in Q2, to be honest, so I'm not too worried and upset by that, and it also does give us a free choice for the race in terms of the tyre strategy, so that will be a big thing to think about there, and like I said earlier, the race pace seemed better than qualifying, so hopefully that's the same case here at Bahrain as was at the Australian Grand Prix, so let's go forward to Sunday, and just make the most of it, really, as will be the kind of party line, basically, for a lot of this first part of the season.
There's something in the Bahrain air tonight, and I'm not just talking about the sand. Our brightest minds have thrust their brightest ideas into the spotlight of the Sakhir circuit this evening as we look ahead once more to a Grand Prix that has thrilled us so consistently in the past. We go racing today around 3.36 miles of the magnificent Bahrain International Circuit, with 15 corners and 2 good passing opportunities into turns 1 and 4. Keep an eye out for drivers locking the front left tyre into the tricky braking zone of turn 10. Alongside me once again for coverage of today's race, it's none other than the great Anthony Davidson. Now, we probably ought to start by discussing Pierre Gasly. That was a great win in the last race. Can they keep that momentum going this weekend?
It's always nice to come into a Grand Prix weekend on a high, but your expectations are based much more on your practice and qualifying runs, so it's the momentum from those sessions that they'll be hoping to carry into the race today.
Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Daniel Kvyat will start today from pole position, and it's Kevin Magnussen in P2. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Ricciardo, Perez, Lewis Hamilton and Butler, Weber, Verstappen, Norris and Nico Hülkenberg. Gasly, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Vettel, George Russell and Leclerc, Grosjean, the engineer, Kimi Raikkonen and Antonio Giovinazzi, Bottas and Lance Stroll brings the grid to a close. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
Well, it certainly looks like this entire Formula 1 grid's going to be very hot this season because qualifying, very different to what we had in Australia. You know, Gasly on pole position. This time, the Racing Point's way down the order there on that grid sequence. You had Kvyat on pole position. The McLaren's up there as well as the Williams and Magnussen there. So really nice to see the AI, you know, getting in the mix. And like I mentioned at the end of the last episode, it seems like the times in the races was so close. You know, mere seconds were dividing 5-6 places. So it's the same for qualifying, and hopefully long may it continue, because that's good news for me. As long as the AI keep, you know, taking points off each other, keep out-qualifying each other, that's going to work out for me, because if I can be just as consistent as I usually am in these career modes, then that will help me out as we get on through this season. But let's see, maybe Racing Point turn up with some race pace, maybe just had a poor qualifying, I'm not too sure, because Gasly did obviously dominate last race quite easily, so never say never in terms of that there. But for us then, in terms of the race strategy, like I said, it'll open up the tyre strategy. It'll be a one-stop. We were going to do that anyway, because last season we did a mega one-stop from soft to the hard tyres. I was always going to do that again for this season, but this time we have a little bit of an easier time because we go to mediums, start on the mediums and do mediums to hard, so the tyre will be even less. I may suffer less degradation in the middle of that stint before the pit stop, so that'll be a little bit calmer than it was, I guess, last season with Mercedes there. But that's the plan then. I'm sure a lot of people will be doing that though, so we'll just see how the traffic goes. That's going to be also another issue in Sec 2 especially. The last time out it was a real fun race, mega scrap, but only for 2 points. Can we get maybe something more here today? Let's see as we go to 5 red lights for round number 2. The Bahrain Grand Prix is underway. The lights were extinct, no time to go out there. It's a bit of a slow start, very sluggish start actually for me compared to the Alfa Romeo on the outside there. Raikkonen and Giovinazzi on the Haas down the inside. We're going to try and dive bomb here with Gio here, and he's made a little bit of contact with Sebastian Vettel. We make a little bit of contact ourselves with our teammate George Russell. Somehow we pull through in P15. He's P14 there, so that was all quite a mess guess at turn 1, really, and not the best start I've ever had in a career mode race, but we now send one down the inside of George Russell to try and overtake our teammate. At least they're on the exit, getting a little bit close there. We're wheel to wheel. Can we have the inside line? And will Russell keep it in? No, he won't. As we have a little bit of snap of oversteer there, we get the position, and now we find ourselves behind the Toro Rosso of Leclerc, who's watching a nice side-by-side battle of Lando Norris and Sebastian Vettel. And once again, the Brit and the McLaren finds himself a little bit down the order, but Australia made such a charge through the grid, so let's see how it goes this time. His teammate also neck and neck with another car, I think, on Racing Point there, just outside the bottom of the top 10. But at the moment, you've got the two Mercs quite high up there, and you can see all the cars very close together, and it'll be the case for the entire race, really, because it was Australia. Like, it's just fantastic. You know, season 5, season 4 was almost the same. I think this season so far, from what I've seen of Australia, and right now, it seems like it's even closer, and it just means the races are so open, because if one man has an issue, he's going to fall down, and you can gain 2-3 positions. You know, if you get in some clean air one stint, that could be a whole 3 positions if you can go fast enough in that clean air. So it's going to be a real mega scrap, I think is the best way to describe it, really, for every single position, really. And so we get down the inside of Leclerc. In the corners is where the car is performing best, because obviously we are down on power for sure, but in mid-corner, the chassis lightness works really well to try and rotate the car around. So dive down the inside of Leclerc, caught him napping somewhat at the last corner, and we're up into P13. We're now on to lap number 2. We have a look at Norris, but it's kind of a same story as Australia here. Going to have to try and make it work in the brake zone rather than in a straight line. We can't get him on the straight, but we can get him around the outside in the brake zone. We get it done up into P12, and so the man who was on a charge in Australia, we catch him there, and we're up into P12 now behind Sebastian Vettel. A big train forming, actually, behind Norris's teammate, Sergio Perez, because he's still fighting Hulkenberg there in the other Racing Point car. Gasly, of course, a little bit further ahead, but there's a massive gap there, look, on the minimap there. So Perez and Hulkenberg scrapping is really causing an issue for this entire part of the field here, and they're basically a bit of a bottleneck here. So I'm going to try and use this to my advantage and try and overtake Vettel and Verstappen whilst they're basically frustrated and caught up behind these two, having a little kind of squabble. Meanwhile, Charles Leclerc retires in the Toro Rosso there behind us, so that might just explain why he was so slow in the last corner on the previous lap. But we send one down the inside of Sebastian Vettel here, goes toe-to-toe with his former team. Of course, been a long while since Vettel's been in red there, but he's having none of it as he gets the elbows out on the exit. Have to wait a little bit more patiently here. We move on to lap number 5 then, into turn 1 again. Hulkenberg and Perez to warn. This time, actually, Hulkenberg is so slow that Verstappen had a little look on the inside of turn 1. Again, we get a good exit here. The acceleration's great with this car, with the chassis lightness, but then we just don't have the grunt to make the move on the exit once we get through to 3rd and 4th gear, because the engine power just isn't there. And so again, we have a look at Vettel. Can't quite make it work on the main straight, but instead now we did this switchback move there from the left to right, and because Vettel was too focused on overtaking Verstappen there quite late on, just opened up the gap there. So quite a surprising late move there that I didn't expect, and we got Vettel then, and we're up into P11. But now we move all the way to lap number 9 then, 4 laps later, and we're still in this train. Classic F1 2019 sort of DRS train where no one can break the gap. But now I'm hoping now, after 4 laps being frustrated behind Verstappen, can we just make a dive bomb maybe and try and make this work and go the long way around, both of us with DRS here. But we're a little bit later on the brakes, a little bit more feisty mid-corner, and we get the car rotated around the outside up into P10, and for the first time in this race in the points paying positions here, with about a third of the race gone. So that's quite a long time to wait to be in the points here, but of course that's just the situation we're here in at the moment, as it is with Ferrari, but hopefully it won't be for too long in this season. But we're now looking on again, Hulkenberg and Perez. This scrap has been going on for literally about 5-6 laps now, and Hulkenberg again tries it down the inside, but the McLaren just has enough speed mid-corner to keep it through, and Perez just nips it down the inside, defends his position quite nicely. Will Hulkenberg once again try it? All the while though, I'm closing up quite cheekily, just quite quietly with DRS here, saving some ERS and fuel as well, probably as well, just trying to, you know, keep the engine temperatures at bay and just watching this fight, because right now there's no room for me to do anything as it stands. But hopefully in a minute or two, once we get to the end of this lap, maybe I can get stuck in. But for now, just watching these two go side by side, it's like a nice choreographed dance here between Hulkenberg and Perez under the floodlights here at Bahrain, and Hulkenberg finally gets the move done. That took him a whole half half lap there, but he finally got it done. And now look at this, on the back straight, Perez a little bit slow now. We lock up there, but Perez compromises himself because he had a look on the inside and just went too aggressively on the right there, and that really tightened up his racing line, so he just got it done around the outside. And now we get a second bite of the cherry with DRS off the back of Hulkenberg, and we're going to try and make a similar move to the one we made in Australia around the outside here. It's worked out for us so well, it would seem, so far this season, the outside move of this Ferrari car. Just like I've said before, the lightness of it just means that I can actually move the car quite quickly around mid-corner, and so with that, that moves us up into P6 of this Grand Prix. A few people making pit stops now as the kind of pit window opens up, and behind me, Hulkenberg and Perez continue to fight. We move on to lap 15 now. 4 laps later, we're up into P2. Everyone has made their pit stop, barring the guys who start on the hard tyres, which is Kvyat and Norris there, you can see on the top left. So a few people are quite odd out, and they started on that hardest compounded tyre, which is probably the only reason I was able to overtake the likes of Norris, because that hard compounded tyre, doesn't matter how quick your car is, that hard tyre is always going to kind of lose probably to the medium compound or the soft compound there. So we kind of got lucky in that kind of sense, but we did good. I think we did good work in those 4 laps from lap 11 to lap 15 in that clean air in P2 to just try and keep up the pace whilst the tyres were wearing out. And so as we come out on lap 16 then up into P13, or down to P13 rather, but we stay ahead of the likes of Verstappen there behind the Haas with a massive screen freeze for good measure, unfortunately just outside the pit lane, so that doesn't help us out there with cold tyres, but thankfully Verstappen wasn't too close there. And now we're going to close up to the Italian, who I think he isn't pit yet because he's very slow now as we go through the next right-hander. So can we try and make an easy move hopefully on this back straight before the last corner, maybe get a cheeky bit of DRS maybe as well to help us out. Let's see, because that Haas will be good in straight line. The Ferrari is probably one of the worst cars in the straight line actually so far this season, so he's actually pretty good down this straight, and so on purpose kind of let him have the corner, so we make the switchback move there, and that also gives us DRS, which should just help us kind of get a nice launch off onto lap number 17 and try and push away from Verstappen. Although I say all of that, Verstappen actually waltzes past, so that Renault seems pretty quick in a straight line here, it would seem, in season 5 until he gets through. But we're up into P10 then. Butler ahead of us in the Red Bull. Yellow flags again, so another retirement potentially behind us there, so let's watch out for that as we come through there. And later on, this safety car is called out on that same lap, and I think that's for that yellow flag situation here. So for the first time now this season, the full course safety car, this is obviously after the F1 2019 game had a patch recently to make sure the safety car gets deployed a bit more often there, so hopefully we won't be saying that a safety car is a mega rare event anymore this season. So it's called out here, but this actually does not help us at all one bit. This is the worst safety car timing in the world for me, because we go on to lap 18 and everyone who was on the hard tyres of compound has now effectively got a free pit stop, and they've gained on me. Norris there ahead of me on the medium tyres now. He was well behind me before, of course, and everyone else also on the hards. They have gained positions on their rivals on track basically because they got a free pit stop. You know, like Kvyat, etc. Got a free pit stop there from the hards to the mediums. You know, it would have worked out if potentially that safety car came just before I made my pit stop. Fortunately not, so we've lost out there. Safety car really kind of ruined our plan a little bit. We probably lost maybe 2 or 3 positions with that, I feel. Obviously in Formula 1 the safety car can give and the safety car can take away. Hopefully later down the line this season we get a little bit luckier with the deployment here, but we're going to try our best to make the best of the situation here. On the restart we get right behind Norris and get a great exit here, and going to time this to perfection to get a great exit. And so now we're nearly practically wheel to wheel with Norris down the main straight as we go green, and we're going to actually have a little cheeky look at Devin Butler, who's going slow on his set of on hard tyres on the Red Bull. Down the inside we've gone into turn 1 and we're up into P7 maybe. No, Butler comes back, to be fair. The Red Bull good in the corners, and so re-overtakes me, but can we get him again on the next right-hander around the outside? You can guess it, that same move we've made now 2 or 3 times. Butler with a lock up there. Ricciardo having issues ahead, and so he's holding up Kvyat, and look at who it is, Pierre Gasly. We see him again, and maybe for the first time this season we might have a chance to fight our championship rival from last season. The man who was home and dry last episode is now caught up in a mega amount of traffic, so that's great news for us maybe to try and take some points off Gasly, because it's anyone's game now. We've only got about 10 laps left in this Grand Prix. Everyone's obviously very bunched up to the safety car, so if we can get Gasly and annoy the hell out of him and keep him at bay, I'm going to try my best to do that. And right now it looks like Ricciardo has some sort of issue, because look at that now, Kvyat overtaking Ricciardo, and he's gone wide again in that corner. I think he may have some sort of damage on his front wing as we now have a look at Gasly. He's held Gasly Gasly up so much, Ricciardo has, that we're now trying to go side by side round the outside of Gasly in the most unorthodox place in the track to make an overtake there. Gasly keeps it through, but the Australian man in the Silver Arrow definitely has major issues here, and it's helping us out. It's making this race very exciting for these last 9 laps. Through the last corner, we keep it tight on the apex there, get a good exit, get a little bit of toe off Ricciardo. No DRS, of course, overtake mode though, and it's a drag race now down to turn 1, and we're just about going to start pulling on Ricciardo a little bit. You can see the power difference there is definitely there, as the Ferrari doesn't have enough natural engine power to just breeze past him, basically, even with overtake mode there on the engine. But we get it done in the corners because clearly he's got some sort of damage there, and now we try and chase after Pierre Gasly. And the thing is, if we can keep up in the corners, which we can enough to Gasly, if we're in the DRS zone, we can overtake him because he's got no one ahead of him. You can see on the minimap there, there's a massive gap now from Gasly to Kvyat because the way, obviously, Ricciardo got in the middle of that allowed Kvyat to get away. So Gasly will not have DRS at any point in the next few laps here to defend with. So as long as I can stay within 1 second, I should have this once the DRS is activated, which just so happens to be this very lap, on lap 22 onto lap 23. So as we move on to the main straight, DRS open, this is where the master plan comes in to try and take points off Pierre Gasly already in this season, when you never thought it would be, really, compared to the differences in pace last episode of Australia. But here we go, we've done the move down the inside there, little bit wide on the exit, but kept it in the black stuff on the tarmac, and so we've kept it through. Gasly will come back though. We're going to squeeze him very harshly to the right there and try and defend our position as hard as we dare, and we're going to maintain the P5. Gasly will slot in. So now we've done the move. Now we have to survive, what's that, 5-6 laps of him obviously trying to attack us. But if we can just have enough ERS maybe to pull this through and play a little bit, wily old fox kind of moves, we could do this, because obviously I know where the detection points are. If we can just play our cards right, we can always try and get DRS back off Gasly. I think I did this last season as well in the Mercedes car, just trying to make sure we're clever with where we are on track at a certain point. You can see Norris though is charging through now. This man is not someone I want to fight. There's no point fighting Norris. He's on medium tyres in the McLaren there. He waltzes through on the right hand side. Gasly tries to follow him through there, but we're not going to have any of that, and we're going to maintain the position in P6. But Norris, I didn't bother fighting him because I didn't think there was any point. The way he pushed through in Australia, he's done the same here. You can see straight away, lap 26, he's nowhere to be seen. He has so much more pace than myself and Gasly, both of us on the hard tyres, remember. So like I said previously, it doesn't matter how good your car is, the hards versus the mediums here at Bahrain are just so night and day. So I thought there's no point here, but we are going to fight Gasly. Perez behind us is a bit of a spanner in the works, but we'll get to that. But you can see here, I let Gasly through on purpose on the end of lap 26 to re-overtake him on lap 27 with the DRS, and that's what we're going to do now for the remaining 3 laps. Just try and play it clever and play a bit of chess basically on this F1 track. Well, I did mention just before there was a spanner in the works, and that spanner is the other McLaren there of Sergio Perez, who's looking to maybe overtake Gasly there, and we're going to try and defend the position here and just make sure that Perez can't make a massive dive bomb to make 2 moves in 1 corner potentially. But he is obviously as fast, probably you would say, as Norris here, but at the moment we've got 2 cars now fighting, whereas with Norris before, it was just Norris v myself. But here, I've got Gasly also trying to keep this position. So if I can try and maneuver around Gasly and kind of have Gasly as a hurdle to Perez, I can keep the P6 here rather than settling for P7 and being ahead of Gasly. Either way, I want to be ahead of Gasly. That's the end result here, but I'm trying to see if we can also gain a position on Perez. But here into turn 1, it's the closest ever I've got to not overtaking Gasly into turn 1 there, because he locked up and actually went wide and almost took me wide with him. But we get the job done around the outside and re-overtake him for P6 here. And now we've only got 1 lap left here as we go to the end of lap 28. Here comes Gasly again. We let off the throttle a little bit there, make sure he's ahead of us at the detection point. Perez again is right behind me. We've only got to do this 1 more time now, 1 last lap to maintain the P6 here and somehow manage to get a whole load of points that we probably don't deserve, but the safety car bunches all up, so make the most of it. So here we go now on the left with Gasly. He's a little bit aggressive there as we kind of wobble and jostle for position there. Perez now trying it around the outside. We go deep on purpose, try and scrub it off some speed there and get ahead of him and keep him at bay. Perez though is going to get a great launch, so this is where we earn the P6. Can we defend from Perez on the next right-hander into sector 2? A little bit late on the brakes there. That puts us wide on purpose, but that's going to kind of block off Perez and so we're going to maintain that into Sector 2, and now it's just a home stretch, Sector 3, survive that, survive the last straight, and we're going to do just that. Lewis Hamilton wins the Bahrain Grand Prix. Surprised to see one of the silver arrows on the top side of the podium, but fair play. Obviously the safety car helped him massively, but we're going to come home through for a massive P6 in this Ferrari. Such a hard fought one there. You know, the last 5 laps was just constantly changing the ERS zones, constantly thinking about where we are in relation to the DRS zone, and you know, it's worked out an absolute treat. We've overtaken and kept Gasly at bay, the championship leader, so already taking points off our potential future championship rival, maybe, you never know.
So, another fantastic victory for the Silver Arrows. What do you think it was, Ant, that gave them the edge over the competition today?
It was a question of right place, right time today. We were looking at an entirely different race before the safety car came out, but they were able to take full advantage after the field had been bunched up.
And I can see the drivers starting to approach the podium for the victory celebrations. A real team victory today. Everybody played their part. Congratulations then to Mercedes, your race winners today.
And looking at the full race results, then you can see again how close things are. Of course, the safety car helped close and bunch things up, but still, a mere few seconds covers from P6 down to P11, 12. So it just, every position counts. Every bit of clean air and fight you have in this season so far has really mattered. Because if you dawdle too much with an overtake, you're going to lose a few seconds, and that may be a potential 2-3 positions later on at the end of the race here. So it's been a real mega fight again at Bahrain. It really has been a tough time. Obviously, not having a car that's really on the pace means that every position is a real fight for us, but it's all good fun, and hopefully the car's just going to improve in pace as we go on here. China, next race, long back straight, that may hurt us. We'll see. We'll cross that bridge once we get to it. But for now, we're up into P8 then in the championship. It's early days, though, so not really looking at the table at the moment here. But points-wise, in terms of constructors, P7. Obviously, we're higher than Ferrari ever was last season, so I think we're already doing a pretty decent job compared to the AI team in Season 4. So I'll take that very much. But we get through to the end of the episode then, and like I was hoping for, we would have enough points to purchase an ultimate engine upgrade, and that's exactly what we have. So it was a good tactic to purchase a minor last episode and then wait for the ultimate this one. So we'll go ahead and buy an ultimate engine power upgrade. That will be a huge booster, because that's actually the last ultimate upgrade on that side of the tree. The rest of them are, I think, 2 majors or 3 majors, and the rest of them are all minor upgrades. So quite quickly, actually, once we get enough funds, we can quite rapidly start upgrading this engine, and within maybe, 6-7 episodes in a row of having constant minor upgrades on the engine side, we'll have an engine just as good as everyone else's, hopefully, knock on wood. I don't know where the Ferrari quite maxes out to, but you get what I mean, essentially. But with that ultimate upgrade, we'll go ahead and also purchase another minor engine power upgrade, and we'll go ahead and have the aero side of things and go ahead and get a minor drag reduction update on that. So that will also help our straight line situation as well at China. So 2 upgrades that will come in for next episode, and hopefully pad the hits will take on the back straight with the lack of power in Sector 3 at China, and then we'll have the ultimate come in just in time for the European part of the season, the Spanish Grand Prix. Great timing. That's worked out really well. So guys, fantastic Bahrain Grand Prix episode, I would say. Compared to last time, we fought so hard for 2 points. This time, equally a hard fight, but P6, a load of points there that I didn't think we were going to actually get halfway through that Grand Prix. I thought we were still going to fight for another P9 or P10 potentially there, but the safety car, it hindered us, but also did help us in a way, because obviously it bunched everyone up. So swings and roundabouts there with the safety car, I guess, today. But guys, if you did enjoy it, then be sure to hit that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, do subscribe for weekly full-on content. I've been aarava. Have a good day. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.